Everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball, and it is game week 35 predictions. Let's get straight into it. Scores on the doors: 341 to Sim, 363 to myself. I think that's the tiredness and the beers catching up to me last night. But 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct start on the star man. Once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Let's start off with last night's game, which was Nottingham Forest against Brentford. It finished 2-0 to Brentford at the City Ground, which is really poor result, to be honest, for Nottingham Forest chasing Champions League football. I went for 1-0 to Forest. You went for 2-2. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of this game. I've just seen the goals. But from what I hear, Forest didn't play well by any stretch of the imagination.
Judging by the stats and stuff, it seems that Brentford were well worth the win and were the better side and they created the better chances. And I guess the conversation here is, are Forest bottling it? Because they're sixth now. They are still level on points with Chelsea, who are in fifth. And obviously, the last day of the season is Forest versus Chelsea. So if they can take it to that last day, maybe they'll back themselves. But they definitely lost 3 of their last 4 games. Definitely kind of maybe the pressure getting to them a bit at the moment.
Yeah, I think so.
And even the game they won against Spurs, they could have easily dropped points in that game.
Yeah, and you're looking at the 4 games that they have left. Like you mentioned Chelsea last game of the season, but prior to that, they got Leicester and West Ham, 2 of the most teams out of form in the Premier League so far. So they have to take 6 points from those 2 games.
I think Chelsea have Newcastle and Liverpool.
And, Newcastle play Arsenal in that time. Then, other teams have tougher fixtures than that. So if they can take 6 points from those 2 games, they put themselves with a real fighting chance of getting it still. But they got to go to Palace away this weekend and do something as well.
Yeah, which is a massive game for them now, especially with the recent form and recent results. So look, they'll be, I think, gutted if they miss out on Champions League for the season they've had, and from this point, still there for them. But it's they'll probably feel like, especially with this kind of result, they shouldn't have made it in this position, because just a few weeks ago we were saying they're shoo-ins and now they're outside the top 5.
Look at it though, like let's say for argument's sake Nottingham Forest finish in the Conference League. I know it's not where they want to be after where they've been all season, but if they are in the Conference League for next season to where they were last year, battling relegation and all that, like it's a tournament that they can genuinely win next season.
It's true, and obviously you can't say they're too big for the Conference League considering their recent history, because they've been the lower leagues of the Championship. Only recently they've made it back to the Premier League for the first time in however long. So I think obviously it'll still be a great season if they end up
even Europa
League or Conference League, but still it kind of gives them a bit of a reality check.
Yeah. Look, I think the initial kind of thoughts from Forest fans will be like, oh my God, we've bottled Champions League. But, once it's all settled in and they actually, think about it properly, Europa League or Conference League won't be the worst thing in the world for them.
No, but still, it'll be a massive disappointment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying initially. Let's move on to our predictions. Man City Wolves, which is Friday night football at the Etihad. Sim's gone for 2-1. I've gone for 3-1. And yeah, Wolves have won 5 or 6 games in a row. They're going really well, really strong at the moment. But I feel it comes to an end this weekend with a Man City. They're on their own good form themselves, and I feel like they're starting to play really well. They're starting to dominate teams again, and they're starting to put the ball in the back of the net. Erling Haaland seen back in training as well. I think this game will probably come a bit too soon for him. But I'm looking at a Man City significant win here.
Yeah, Rodri touching grass as well. I don't know if he'll be fit for this game, but he seems as though he's not far from a return. So that's a massive boost for Man City. I see it just a bit of a closer game just because the form Wolves are in and also the way they set up that 3 at the back kind of system. I can see it making it a bit awkward for City at times in this game, but I think City's quality will just about get them over the line. But I think it might even take a late winner or something to win this game, but I think they will get that win and really put themselves in the driving seat for that Champions League spots. But even for them, I know they got some easy games coming up. But if they don't win this game, it puts them in a precarious situation. So they need to get the win over the line.
Yeah. Aston Villa, Fulham up next. Sim's gone for 2-2 here.
Yeah, I think Villa are very good at home and they're tough to play against. But you can, they do kind of leave a bit of risk. I think you can see with their away, their kind of goals against form. Their defense. they do concede a lot of goals. And I think Fulham are a kind of smart team in these kind of away games. They've got decent away form, Fulham. And I think in these away games, they're very smart in how they approach it. Marco Silva's a very smart tactical manager. And I can see them going there and giving up a really good performance. And I think Villa will have moments where they look like they're coasting, and then Fulham will just come back in the game out of nowhere, I feel, and they'll get a couple of goals as well. So I've gone for a 2-2 draw here.
Yeah, I've just sided with Aston Villa 2-1. I feel like the disappointment of the FA Cup semi-final against Crystal Palace will really be hurting them, because they were favourites to go and win that game, and they pretty much didn't show up in that semi-final, and Crystal Palace dominated them and won 3-0. So that's got to hurt them massively. And as well, the way they went out the Champions League second leg against PSG, unbelievable performance, and they really should have, gone through, but PSG are doing the job on them. But this is the last chance for Villa, and I think, like, in terms of for a successful season, and I feel like they are gonna, try and right those wrongs in these last 4 games and try their best to finish in that top 4 or top 5. And their home form this season has been nothing short of spectacular. They haven't lost there, I think, since the opening month of the season. Fulham, very good side in their own right, but I just feel like Villa, with a lot more to play for here, are just going to get over the line at 2-1 at Villa Park. Everton against Ipswich. Sim's gone for 3-0. I've gone for 2-0. It's hard to see anything but a clean sheet for Everton and a fairly convincing win, but I've just gone for one less goal.
Yeah, I've just gone for Moyes to kind of have a decent end to the season. I know they've lost their last 2, their form's slipping away, but with Ipswich already confirmed relegation now, I think Everton can really take it to them in this game, throw caution to the wind, and really go for a decent scoreline. So I've gone for them to bully Ipswich in this game, 3-0.
All right, let's go to Leicester, Southampton. And if you cast your mind back to a bet that me and Sim made, Sim said that they are not going to beat Derby's record in terms of, I said that they are going to, but Derby are going to stay basically lowest points tally ever in the Premier League history. Sim said it's going to be Southampton come the end of the season. They need one more point to beat it. And this weekend is going to be probably, if Southampton don't get a win in this game or a draw, then I'll probably say Sim is probably going to win the bet. But it all comes down to this game, doesn't it?
Definitely does. And
I think that might have been in your thinking.
Definitely not. No, Leicester, mate. Leicester are a decent team. I think, to be fair, recently they got a draw at Brighton, and I think at Wolves, they were very much in that game before Vardy missed that penalty, and then they missed the penalty, and it kind of went all flat for them. But I just think that, one of their last home games of the season. I also think the fact that Vardy is retiring, he's going to be well up for it for these last few games to try and have a really good ending to his Leicester career, albeit it's going to end in relegation. But I do think he's going to want to say goodbye in good kind of manner, and that'll be some sort of motivation in this game. And I've just gone for Leicester's scrape at 2-1 here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these two teams, obviously both really poor this season. But I just feel like Southampton actually have been better than Leicester over the course of the season. Just the points tally doesn't suggest it. And you're looking at games over the past couple of weeks. Last week against Fulham, it was a draw going into the last minute. Fulham got that winner. The week before that, they drew with West Ham. They drew with Palace earlier on this season when they were winning going into the last few minutes, and they let it slip. So I feel like finally Southampton might actually get over the line here this weekend against a Leicester side who, again, both teams are doing the same, but they're both just losing week in, week out. But I just feel like Southampton got just a bit more about them than this Leicester side. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Sim or myself is going to be in that fancy dress costume. But let's move on to Arsenal against Bournemouth. And surprise, we've both gone for a 1-1 draw here.
Yeah, I think Arsenal obviously got a massive game in Paris in midweek. I think draws have been the name of the game for them in recent weeks. They've drawn 3 of their last 4. And I do see a lot of heavy rotation. I see Bournemouth, who aren't in the best form, but they also draw a lot of games. They've also drawn 3 of their last 4. So I think this game is going to follow suit. And I think another 1-1 draw is in the offing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see Arsenal not like heavily rotating more than they've ever done this season. Like off the back of a 1-0 defeat at home to PSG, they've got to put everything into that away leg. Liverpool have already won the league. This game means pretty much nothing. So Arsenal have to heavily rotate. Even if Arsenal don't rotate, you probably think a draw could be the outcome, with their minds being on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the game is. And Bournemouth, I think with a heavily reduced Arsenal side, I think they can take something away from the Emirates. So I've gone for 1-1 as well. Next up is Brentford against Manchester United. Sim's gone for 3-1. I've gone for 2-1, both in the favour of Brentford. Again, Man United have European concerns on Thursday. They are taking a heavy 3-0 lead into the second leg, which was much a surprise to everyone against Bilbao, out in Bilbao. But I still think they'll heavily rotate to this game just to make sure that it is signed, sealed and delivered in the second leg. And on the back of that, I think Brentford will be the beneficiaries of that. And I don't see it being like all one-way traffic. I think Man United are slowly improving. But I've just gone for 2-1.
Yeah, I think I've gone for 3-1, and I think Brentford at home should... I mean, at home, they haven't been great. They're actually better away from home. But I think with the heavy rotation from Man United and the way Brentford play... even though they're not having any more advantage kind of with rest days because they also played on Thursday, I think Brentford will be able to counter Man United. I think Mbeumo and Wissa should get a lot of joy in this one. Brentford like to play Man United as well, I think. So I think 3-1. I went for 3-1 at home and Brentford have a good day.
Yeah. Next up is Brighton against Newcastle. Sim's gone for a big one, 3-2 here. I've gone for 2-1, both in the favour of Newcastle.
Yeah, Brighton haven't been in great form, but they obviously buoyed by a last-minute winner against West Ham last week with what was a brilliant late comeback. I think they'll be really up for this one. And Newcastle, obviously having a really great end to the season, but didn't have a great game against Aston Villa when they lost 4-1, but then they got back to winning ways last week with a good win. So I think it's going to be a game where Brighton are going to control it. They're going to have a lot of possession, and you're going to have the likes of Isak, Gordon, Barnes, Murphy, whoever's starting that front three, just hitting on the counter-attack and kind of being devastating. And I see a bit of a topsy-turvy game here with Brighton kind of the shackles are off for them now, albeit there's still a bit of a fight for 8th going on. They're level on points here, but I think that the pressure's really on Newcastle, and I think they're going to play a tactical game here. So I've gone for a 3-2 win to Newcastle.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Brighton at the moment, and I know they've scored 5 goals in the last 2 games, but they're just not a team on form at the moment. They got a win last time out against West Ham, but they were even losing that going into the last few minutes of the game and managed to turn it around, but that was against a very poor West Ham team. This is a much different prospect facing an informed Newcastle. Yes, they got battered to Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago, but every other game that they've played in the last 5 or 6, they've been brilliant. Let's be honest. They've played really well. So I feel like this is going to be a good away performance from Newcastle. Much more riding on it for Newcastle than Brighton, so I think they'll get the win. Brighton will cause them problems. They cause every team that they play problems, even if they do go and lose the game. But I can't see anything but a Newcastle win, to be honest. 2-1. Next up is the El Crapico, West Ham against Tottenham. Sim's gone.
We won the last one.
Yeah, we did. Sim went for 1-0 to West Ham. I've gone for 2-2 here. Look, it's going to be a much changed team from Tottenham. It has to be going into that second leg against Bodo Glimt. West Ham, we all know that whenever Tottenham come to town, they seem to raise their game, no matter what kind of form they are going into the game. But look, let's be honest, both league forms from both these sides are absolutely shambolic. I don't see it being a good game of football by any stretch of the imagination. Even if I come for 2-2, that does signal that it could be a good game, but I just feel like it's going to be 2 poor defences going up against each other. And it might make for good viewing because of that, and maybe a few goals, but I don't think it's going to be a high-quality game is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to be lacking a bit of energy, a bit of motivation. We're going to be lacking a lot of our stars, and I feel like West Ham, who are also lacking confidence and in poor form, I just see them getting a goal and Tottenham being, huffing and puffing and not being able to reply. And I see West Ham maybe approaching this similar to the Arsenal game where they got that goal and they just sat on it and they were able to see it out. And I think at home, obviously they'll be delighted with that because it's, their cup final. It's the biggest, massive derby game for them. So I think they'll have that little bit of extra motivation, especially at home. I don't see it being a vintage display, but I see them getting a goal, kind of out of the blue, maybe be a set piece or a bit of magic, and Tottenham just being unable to reply.
Chelsea, Liverpool. This is an interesting one. Liverpool obviously already having won the title. Sim's gone for 2-1 to Liverpool. I've gone for 1-1 here.
Yeah, I think obviously Liverpool, the title's confirmed, so maybe that little bit of just tension, obviously after battering Tottenham as well last week, they'll be kind of off their shoulders a bit. And I think going to Chelsea, who right now, there's definitely a lot of anxiety about getting in that top 5, and I don't think they're going to go into this game like free flowing. They haven't been free flowing for a while, albeit their form does seem to be a bit better as it has been. Albeit performances, I wouldn't say are massively improved, but they did get a good performance and result on in midweek in the Conference League. I just feel like with the shackles off Liverpool, they're kind of just going to go throw caution to the wind. And that could kind of rustle up a few. That kind of could unbalance Chelsea a bit. So I've gone for a 2-1 win to Liverpool here at Stamford Bridge.
And then the last game of the weekend will be
you didn't
Palace
explain
against...
your result.
Oh, sorry. I went for 1-1. I went for 1-1 because, for me, Liverpool with the title already won. I feel like they'll be a bit in party mode. And there's a lot to play for Chelsea with Champions League football up for grabs. And I think it'll be a tight game, really tight game in my opinion. I just feel like Liverpool, they'll carry on this kind of trudging along, but I just think they'll stop getting over the line now because they know the title's won. And Chelsea, to be fair to them, last couple of weeks, they're starting to get the results through the door. So I think a 1-1 draw against Liverpool, it'll be a good result to be fair, but I think they might even be hoping to win this game. So that is that. And last but not least, what is Palace against Forest at Selhurst Park. I've gone for 1-1. What have you gone for?
I have gone for... What did I go for? I went for 1-1 as well.
Oh, you also went for 1-1.
Also went for 1-1, yeah.
Yes, I mean, Forest obviously playing really poorly at the moment. Palace, on the back of that brilliant FA Cup semi-final win, I feel like everything for Palace now is just on that FA Cup final, and I feel like they're going to, take their foot off the gas a little bit and maybe overlook these kind of Premier League games. But at home, they're always a tough nut to crack, and Forest at the moment, they just can't seem to get consistent results, so I feel like a 1-1.
Yeah, and I feel Forest at the moment also not liking playing these teams who sit back and don't give them the space they need and they want. And when they play teams who play like them, essentially, who restrict the opposition and play a bit pragmatic, they are not the team that's going to really break them down. And I think Palace is that kind of team. So I think they're going to struggle, but I think they'll go get a draw.
And last but not least, star men. Sim's gone for Mbuemo. I've gone for Morgan Gibbs-White. I think I may have had a bit of a stinker with Starman this week, to be honest, because we were doing it on the back of a double game week, and we actually did these predictions a few days ago, but didn't find the time to record it. So Morgan Gibbs-White obviously did nothing. Brian Mbuemo did nothing in the game on Thursday night, but now Mbuemo gets to play Manchester United, a much changed Manchester United team, and Morgan Gibbs-White got to go away to Crystal Palace. So I think it's a good opportunity for you to catch up some points, to be honest.
I hope so. Hopefully Mbuemo, I feel a penalty coming. I do feel a penalty coming.
Let's hope not. But anyway, that is Predict the Prem. That is the gap in scores, 341 to 363. We'll see what happens over the course of the weekend. Let us know your predictions in the comments section below. We'll see you next time, guys.